Guys, it is Tuesday night, 7:30. This is the Unmasked Show, and I am John Myers. I'll be your host for the evening. We've got the wonderful Weaving Steven back behind the camera. We've got Ernie running the console, and Colin running the chat group, and JW is out visiting some family at a game. Hopefully he's still listening to us. Hope you guys tuned in last time we had the show. We had Brandon, we had Jacob talking about some SQ event they went to and all the fun they had. And if you guys have never been to one, go check them out. They're actually getting more popular all the time, not just the SBL events, but sometimes those SQ events draw a good crowd as well. So if you guys like to win stuff, if you're new to this show, which I know a lot of you are not, but some of you are, go to kicker.com/UMweekly and you can register to win tonight's prizes. Everyone's going to win the Unmasked koozie, the Unmasked t-shirt, and the third place winner will get the TW1s, second place gets the TW2s, and third place is going to get the Bluetooth Bullfrog, the BF100, which is waterproof Bluetooth speaker. And those things sound fantastic. I've got a great guest coming up after the break. He's one of my favorite people in the industry, and I know you're going to love him. He, like I say, this guy is just amazing, and the stuff he's got his fingers in, I mean, he's got his hand on the pulse of audio, cars, and anything else having to do with any of those. So guys, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and we're going to go to our guest and we're going to have some fun talking about sound dampening material.
Some man, your hands on the wheel, got a sexy touch. It's enough to make me and my Chevy blush. So long. Take it all off of that highway. Turn me on, I'll let you drive, babe. You can take it fast as you want to. Girl, little dirty looks damn good on. You start me up. Stones on the radio. Girl, I love it when you let go. Don't waste your way in the wrong way. Get off on some 4x4 play.
Music is my passion, my livelihood, and it's in my DNA. My pals at Kicker Marine Audio gave me a chance to take the music, what I love and listen to, at home, on stage, and in the car, onto the water. Hi, this is Jason Bonham, and I want to say a big thank you to my friends at Kicker Audio for inspiring the songs and the stories behind the music that inspires America. Go overboard!
This is your time.
Hey guys, we are back and let's just jump right into the program. Let's get going with this. And I know Tim is a very busy guy and with good reason to be. He's got a lot going on. So Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, it's great to be here. I'm thrilled to be back with the folks at Kicker and ready for tonight's show.
It's been a little while since we had you on the air, so we're going to have to go over and hash over some stuff we did before and a little bit about you. So let's just get started with that. Tim, tell the guys the story. How did you get into sound dampening? What made this whole progression happen?
Well, it goes back about 36, 37 years, John. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the gray hair. I was working for a chemical company in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. And at that time, this is in 1987, it was the oldest company on the New York Stock Exchange, and the CEO was the seventh generation of the original founder, which was unheard of in today's day and age. But he had an affinity for automobiles. He loved cars. He was an enthusiast. He had a collection, and he had a desire to bring the Dexter Corporation chemical technology into the automotive industry, but he didn't have a channel. He didn't have a company or a division that was supplying. So he hired me to go out and find companies that he could buy that would allow him to create an automotive division to channel his technology through. And the companies that we bought a company from W.R. Grace in Heidelberg, Germany. We bought a company in Cleveland, Ohio, and we bought a division of Ciba-Geigy in Kansas City. And we merged all those businesses together. And in 1988, 89, we merged them, and I went out to run those businesses in Kansas City. At the same time, Lexus was coming out with the quiet car commercials. And if you remember the old LS400 commercials in the late 80s, you drive up to the fire, up to a waterfall, the window was open, you hear the roar, they'd close the window, and all of a sudden it was silence inside the car. Well, that was the advent of acoustics, real acoustics, before the car audio space acoustics. It was, what was that car sounding like when it was driven on the highway, on the freeway, on the neighborhoods on a day in and day out basis. Well, GM, Ford, and Chrysler had never really thought about that before. And what we were making was butyl rubber sealants, and we were making millions of them. And the thing about our sealants is they stuck to anything. They stuck to wood, they stuck to fiberglass, plastic, sheet metal. And Ford, GM, and Chrysler came to us and asked us, do you have anything that will do this to the automobile, meaning this being the LS400? And over the course of time, we married together an extruded butyl rubber product and aluminum foil together, and we created the first constrained layer damper for the automotive industry here in North America, and that launched in 1989, 1990. And at our peak, we were manufacturing about 52 million pounds of butyl rubber a year. And we were really good at it.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. And we stuck to our knitting, right? I mean, that product was going on every GM car, every Chrysler car, probably 70% of the Ford vehicles out there. And the pieces were about as big as this Post-it note. In typical OEM fashion here in North America, they pick this, we would design something that was this big, and they would say, nah, we're only going to put this much in it. And it was all driven based on cost. So for years, I really wanted to be a brand. I wanted to create a brand for the big three. And unfortunately, unless your name was Firestone, they would not allow you to create a brand. And when you did create a brand, you took the liability along with it. And I was always frustrated by that. And I sold the OEM business in 2000 and branded the product and brought it to the aftermarket in 2001. And that really is the history of a lot of years of sleepless nights, shipping product to assembly plants on airplanes. And I can tell you more horror stories about that, but it would take us 5 or 6 of these shows to go through all that. But
we'll make note
but
of that
really, it drove it. It just created the passion. It lit the fire for me. And I always had the entrepreneurial bug. I never wanted to work for a large corporation. I never wanted to be a number on a HR role. I always wanted to be able to make decisions and then, fortunately or unfortunately, see the results of those decisions. And that's still true today. I have that spirit, I have that passion, and I just love this industry.
Yeah, and I don't blame you a bit. And what's interesting, we talk about damping material, and let's clarify, it's damping material, not dampening material. Yeah. We're not making the vehicle wet.
That's exactly right,
I still slip.
I mean, hey, it's okay. Everyone, about half the industry still calls it dampening. So
yeah, I know.
It's all right.
So the funny thing about, the product that you offer and it's what makes it the product is the fact that, we're audio guys. We're supposed to be making noise and music, and we're spending money on something that makes no noise. In fact, it inhibits noise. So tell us a little bit about what the advantages of using the product are, both in areas both in audio and non-audio. I mean, and of course in sound and non-sound. I mean, what are all the benefits of having, a good amount of product? And I know for a fact how well your products work. I use them in every single vehicle I have. In fact, I get a little extreme with it, but that's all right. If enough is enough, too much has got to be better, right?
John, the Kicker family is near and dear to the heart. I mean, it just truly is. We're both Midwestern companies, and it's something that I have a real strong affinity for like-minded entrepreneurial spirit type companies, and Kicker certainly fits that bill. I will tell you, if you think about the place that you start, and it's something that I talk to installers, across the country about and have for, 25 years. I tell them that the automobile is a stage, and think about setting up a concert in a shoehorn football stadium versus an enclosed facility. Well, the acoustic engineers go in there and they set the stage for the optimum sound. Well, what installers are doing by installing sound deadening is they're setting the stage in that automobile to be able to generate quality sound, so that when you do put that kicker system in there, it's going to sound fantastic. And that's really what I encourage installers to think about, is forget about the audio system at the moment. Let's look at all the variables that exist in that sound stage, or that SUV or sedan, or low profile Nissan, or a crossover vehicle. Those are all different stages. And when you start to look at the 3 levels of acoustics in the car, you have what's called low frequency noise, which is structurally generated. It's vibrational or structural noise. You have high frequency noise, which is typically airborne inside the vehicle. So think about exhaust drone, think about road and tire whine, think about wind noise. And then the last area is you have the environment that sound stage is traveling through. So you have all of the climate, you have the geography issues, you have road surface conditions, you have tire wear, you have the age of the vehicle. These are all variables that contribute to setting the stage for that awesome sound inside the vehicle. So drive the car stock as it was brought into your shop, and get an evaluation for these 3 levels of noise. And that will kind of set the tone for the treatment that is going to be required for that vehicle. And it's going to be different if you're talking a Ford Ranger pickup versus a Kia crossover vehicle, a small SUV. Those environments are going to be dramatically different, and the treatments are going to be different. And that's the value that this car audio industry has standing in front of them. And many, many companies out there will just say, hey, it's got silver foil on it, stick it all over, and you're good to go. That's all you need to do. Well, that's only treating one of the 3 variables.
Right.
And in many cases, that's a product that's really only designed for 260 degrees metal surface temperature. Well, you get a black roof in, Phoenix, Arizona in August, that's going to be 270, 280 degrees of heat coming through that vehicle. Well, that product's not going to stick. So a lot of variables. I really try and encourage the installer to think about the vehicle, think about the usage, think about these 3 variables, and then design their system around that. And that car will sound phenomenal before you even put the audio system in it. When you put the audio system in it, it comes to life. And that's really something that I encourage people to think about.
And I completely agree with you. I mean, you got to have a good foundation to build on. And, you can be the best installer in the world, have the best gear, but if the people can't hear it or hear all of its, abilities, what good is it? So
yeah,
it's just an area that gets overlooked because, as I mentioned before, this is something that, people don't see it, they don't hear it, but it is absolutely, crucial to having a good sounding audio system and just an overall, better experience, driving your car.
Right on. And you think about a stock vehicle today, and I don't care what level, what type, et cetera. A stock vehicle today is 85 to 90 decibels of noise at 65 miles an hour on I-35. That's not excessive speed. That's just average daily usage. And the stock vehicle is designed to generate around that level of noise. So already right out of the blocks, you're behind the curve. And your audio system now has to generate enough power to overcome that noise. So now you're just getting bombarded by high frequency, low frequency, this really nicely tuned audio system that just is not in the sound stage that's been prepared for it. And that's, and really it's quite simple. There's only 2 or 3 products, really two, that are required to treat that soundstage. And if you do the high frequency and the low frequency with the HushMat materials, we've already done all the work relative to the automotive industry standards and requirements. Every batch we make is tested to every ASTM standard that's required by the automotive industry. So we know our product's going to work. Now it's a matter of just designing the system for that specific vehicle.
That and getting people to realize, how important it is, and obviously
and that's the start. That is absolutely the starting point, and getting people to realize that there is true technology behind this category, and there's a lot of snake oil out there, and I will never ever discourage or say anything bad about other brands and what have you, but they just don't have the core competence behind their materials, and we do.
Yeah, they don't have the track history. I mean, you've been around since the advent of this whole product category. Everybody else has come along as a me too. It's like, you're right, we can just take some butyl rubber and slap some foil on it. Hey, we got, a competitive product. Well, it's not at all, not even close.
Yeah. And still today we're manufactured in the US, which I'm really proud of that fact. And it's amazing now, all of a sudden in this day and age, it's coming full circle to say, wow, you're made in the US. That's really cool. Well, for 30 years, it's been, why the heck aren't you making this stuff in China? And, oh, well.
Yeah, we don't even need to go there. And,
nope.
One of the fun things about, audio and the products is there's a technical specification that everybody likes to talk about with electronics. It's something called signal to noise ratio, which basically means the electronics have a level of noise, and then you've got a certain level of signal above that. So the farther above the noise you can get the signal, it's going to take more power to do that. Usually the cleaner and better it sounds. But what really makes sense is, why try to mask all that noise with just volume and power and numbers of speakers? Why not bring that noise down? And with the same amount of power, you get, obviously better sound and an overall better result.
You bet. And it's night and day. I mean, if you A and B, two vehicles with exactly your point, you will notice a difference the second you step inside of either one of them. I mean, it's that noticeable. And it's like going to a concert in a metal Butler building versus going to a concert in a concert hall. Totally different.
Yeah, and car is not, a very forgiving acoustical arena. I mean, there's so many factors with, cars that have a lot of carpet, a lot of, plush interiors, like a 76 Crown Vic with, the couches for seats in it, versus some of these new trucks that have got rubber floor mats, hard plastic door panels. So you really have to treat the vehicle for the vehicle. You don't just have a one, process meets all.
Amen, John. And you got, depending on the age of the vehicle, you go back to the 60s and 70s era muscle cars and real heavy gauge sheet metal and so forth, to a 1980s, early 80s Corvette, which is fiberglass, or you go to, replacement parts now in this day and age are very thin gauge sheet metal. So now you're talking a whole different profile. So you hit it on the head. Just the substrates alone vary. And that's one variable out of, I've written down probably 25 of them to think about. So.
Now, obviously, you've become a master at sound damping material, but that is not the only product you guys offer. In fact, I was a little surprised. I was just looking at the website. I hadn't looked at your website for a while because, we know each other so well and talk about this. You don't think, let's go back and see what new kind of stuff he's doing, because usually when we talk, you've been so busy and got so many other things to talk about, we never get back to your product. But I'm going to bring up a couple of the other things we offer, and you give the guys an idea what this stuff is used for and why it's so important, because obviously if you didn't make it or sell it, it's not important. So, but a lot of these things get overlooked. And the first thing that, I have in all my vehicles as well are the wave breakers. So tell us a little bit about those and what they do.
Yeah, you think about, what people don't realize is speakers transmit noise in two different directions, right? Out the front is music and out the back is backwave. Well, when that backwave that goes out the back of any speaker hits a solid surface, it reflects off of that and then takes the speaker out of phase. And what we're doing is we're applying our wave breaker pad directly behind the magnet, say behind set of door speakers. So you've put the sound deadening material ultra on the outer skin of the door. You then bond this wave breaker pad directly behind the magnet onto the foil back side of the HushMat Ultra. So when that back wave hits that wave breaker, it gets broken up and absorbed by that soft foam rubber pad, and that wave gets broken up, so it never reflects off the surface. And it just is a very, very innovative technology that is true with every speaker that's ever been built. And it's home, it's marine, it's off-road, it's automotive, it's anywhere that you find speakers. Backwave is a constant presence. And the wave breaker is a peel and stick product that makes that backwave disappear, essentially.
Yeah, to me, I almost call it an acoustic sponge, because it literally is thick as a sponge and spongy, and the adhesive you have on that material is amazing. It's not coming off when you put it on. Of course, neither is the HushMat in general.
Our core competence in the manufacturing process is our ability to formulate adhesives. And people don't realize that, well, what type of adhesive are you using on your sound deadening material? We don't. The actual formula itself is the adhesive,
right?
Which is what gives us just really phenomenal properties in virtually any substrate in a car.
Yeah, and if I remember right, I think the first time I ever saw a demonstration with your product, I mean, literally holding a steel panel, spray WD-40 on it, stick a piece on there, and say, try to pull it off.
Yeah.
The stuff just does not let go. I mean, I've worked on vehicles, gone back after, someone's used some of the other brands of material, and it's peeling off the insides of the doors, or, it's fallen off, or, it's melted, because they didn't have the proper material. They just think, you can put this anywhere. Well, like we said, you can't, because you've got the heat to worry about. And, you and I both are, hot rod fans, and that's why we're going to SEMA next week. But, these cars that put these huge engines in there, and then they put the big old 3 and 4 inch exhaust down the middle, you've got to take consideration for that heat buildup as well.
You really do, John. And one of the tests is the flammability test for automotive. I mean, our product is rated to a surface temperature of 550 degrees. I mean, there's nothing in an automobile that's going to get to 550 degrees at the metal surface temperature, other than, say, a header. Engine.
Yeah.
So a firewall, no problem. The underside of a transmission tunnel, no problem. So,
and it's funny you mentioned that about the headers, because that's one thing I noticed when I actually changed the exhaust on my car and went to full, tubular headers on it. And I now think I need sound dampening material on my headers, because I keep thinking there's an exhaust leak, but it's just you're hearing the cylinders fire through that metal.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Raw power.
Gotta have it. Gotta like it. So,
absolutely.
Other cool little accessories you offer is the quiet tape.
You bet. Yeah. So we formulated a real simple one-sided foam rubber tape that the adhesive does not bond to the outer surface of the tape. So we actually coat the outside of the tape with a release agent, and you're able to braid or coil or wrap and hold wires in a certain area while you're working, and then you can unwind that tape and reuse it. And we've got men and women using this stuff in garages, in in marinas, in their home. Folks are using it in the RV world, but it was originally intended for braiding and securing wiring to prevent it from rattling and excessive wear and tear on wires and harnesses and so forth. And it's got a million uses. We're still, to this day, people are sending us pictures of they're using it as metal cabinet bumpers or steel furniture to stop the crash of the, and I'm going, wow, we didn't really think of that one, but hey, God bless them.
Yeah, people out there get very creative, sometimes for the better, but not always. They, some of the pictures they send me, it's like, yeah, that was creative, but I don't think anyone ever needs to do that again.
Yeah, there you go.
It's neat stuff to have, and the fact you do offer some of these different things. You like the hood liner and the silencer foam that you offer.
Yeah, the hood liner's gotten really, especially now with all the off-road and side-by-sides and, a lot of the transmission tunnel market. You're talking all these aftermarket transmissions. People put their thigh against the transmission tunnel and get a burn. Well, you put our hood liner product on the underside of that transmission tunnel, you're good to go. You've now insulated that for as long as that vehicle's on the road. And, the firewall on the back of a side-by-side, I mean, that is heat that's directly behind the driver and the passenger, and they're cooking. And all that's between them is a plastic shell. Well, you line the backside of that with our hood liner material, and it really does a phenomenal job. Silencer is the product that is non-water absorbent, and it absorbs sound waves. So if you think about the airborne noise that we talked about, the high frequency, exhaust drone and whatever, you can put 2 layers of HushMat down and you're not going to touch above 1,000 hertz frequency. Well, a lot of that airborne noise is, 2,500, 3,000, 4,000, 4,500 hertz frequency. And the silencer does a phenomenal job of absorbing those higher frequencies. So the 2 products in combination treat the 2 major variables of noise inside the vehicle.
And I agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this, because, without knowledge of understanding that, and, without somebody, telling, hey, this is really great, but pair it up with this product to go that 4 steps above. You really make it work in conjunction with it. So,
and one of the things that we're unmasking, if you will, at SEMA
nice pun.
Next week, we're marrying these products together. So we've come up with a tri-fusion product that we're launching at SEMA that I've now just told you about. That marries the low frequency and the high frequency material together in one piece. So really cool stuff, and we're excited about it.
That makes it harder for us, the average installers, to screw it up. Just put it on and you're good.
Right on.
It's the old KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's the way I learned best, John. That's the way I learned best.
I usually learn by injuring myself and decide I'm not going to do that again, and then I do it again. It's like, oh yeah, I wasn't going to do that again. So you're also doing stuff with heavy trucks now, which is kind of unique.
We are. You think about acoustics and you think about insulation. I ask people, all the time, this is a great thing to ask, down in Stillwater in July and August. Hey, would you ever live in a house that wasn't insulated? And they look at you like, not a chance, right? I mean, not a chance. Well, these truck drivers, these CDL licensed guys are driving around in rigs and sleepers. They're living in these things, and there's no insulation in them. You peel back the flooring and you look, and there's just this urethane foam underneath there that's really not providing them any level of comfort, whether they're driving or parked. So we created insulation packages for virtually every Peterbilt, Kenworth, Freightliner, Western Star, Mack. We have kits for those specific vehicles, and we also have kits for the sleepers that are bolted on them. So we give that CDL driver a really, really good environment to not only drive their, million miles in that rig, but also when they're parked in the rest area sleeping. And
that engine idling.
It keeps the ambient temperature inside the sleeper more consistent. It stays warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And, that's something that we kind of brushed over, on the regular car audio product, but if you're insulating that heat from the firewall and the transmission tunnel and the floor, I mean, your air conditioner works better, in the
Absolutely.
summertime. You don't have to run it cranked, and of course that reduces the noise from just more mechanical things moving, and I mean, it all works together. It's just kind of a snowball effect.
Right on, right on. And those cabs and those sleepers, they were either fiberglass or aluminum, and all they do is radiate heat.
Yeah, and those things, I don't know if anyone's ever driven next to one of those trucks before ever, but they're not the quietest things on the road, that's for sure.
They're not. They're not. So, we're really thrilled. We've got hundreds and hundreds of CDL licensed drivers that have, installed this product, and we get feedback from them. Thank yous for just making the environment more livable.
Yeah, and so you guys out there, if you're doing trucks, I mean, this is definitely a heads up. This is something you need to capitalize on to give your customers that extra little treatment. But and these truck drivers, I think Steven can tell. Steven's got a CDL now, so he's one of those guys. Steven, how long can you drive a truck? Legally.
For 11 hours a day.
So legally, you can drive that truck for 11 hours. So imagine how annoyed with noise you're going to be at the end of 11 hours. And then to sit there and listen to it, on the truck stop with it, idling while you're trying to, get some rest. So it's
Amen.
Really amazing. The older I get, the more I start to appreciate how quiet some things are. And, like you travel a lot, renting cars, and it's so amazing, the different cars that, the noise levels in them. And what's really interesting is, you would think, I'm going to pick on a brand, not so much pick on it, but just from personal experience. My wife's got a Cadillac, and most of you guys know I've got a Mustang. Without any treatment at all, the Mustang was actually quieter than the Cadillac, which is weird. Mm-hmm. But it worked out that way, and the wife rides in the Mustang, and she's like, well, why is my car not as quiet as yours? I said, well, because I didn't do as much treatment to yours as I did mine. I think I've got 3 Ultra packs in the Mustang alone. I mean, and like I said, I'm the one to extreme. I mean, in my Dodge Ram, in fact, we talk about this truck. I've got 25 sheets of that in the front doors of that truck, and because of what I've done, I mean, you say you don't need a lot, but obviously more is always better in my opinion. I had done the outside door skin, the inner actuator card inside and out, and the door panels. Mm-hmm. So I've got 6x9s in that truck that I've had people literally, when I asked them to guess what I had in that vehicle, it's like, well, you got 2 10s or a 12 back there. And it's like, no, this is just the base coming out of the doors, because when you add that mass to those panels, the base is so much better. And anything that gives, anything that vibrates, like, metal or, plastic, that vibration is parasitic. It's absorbing output, and it's also, pollution too, because it's making its own vibrations and resonances, which is adding to the sound that, you're trying to make sound better, and it's not. So it's just, the stuff is so important, and so important to do it right. And you don't have to be an expert at it either. Just, some common sense sometimes will go a long way, and it's absolutely incredible what a difference it makes.
Yeah, you think about a stock vehicle, John, and you subject that to, just a moderate level of bass, and you've now created that ballooning effect in that metal. And every time that metal flexes, you're absorbing energy. And as you're absorbing that energy, you're losing all of that output. And so, to your point earlier, you got to crank up the volume. And all you're doing is making that ballooning.
Bigger speakers.
Absolutely. You're making that ballooning effect worse. So you may gain a little bit as you're turning up the volume, but you're still losing so much of that output. And again, I call it setting the sound stage. And you hit it on the head. I mean, the outer skin, the inner frame, the inner panel, every one of those will flex at a different frequency or at a different power level, and it's just robbing you of output.
Yeah, and it's just create more problems. Now, I know Ernie was just yelling at me from the back, to answer some questions. And, Ernie, I probably would if I could see the TV that we had questions. All I see is myself, unfortunately, up here, so I can't see what's going on. He said he's got me. Now I got a blank screen. Oh, there we go. Now I can actually see Tim, and I can actually see the screen. So we got some questions out there. Kicker Truck Travis, who's got the Kicker truck actually in our museum that we built back in '99. And Travis is now a proud owner of our Econo line. He's getting it all ready to go to bring it out on the road and actually get it out in the world rather than just being stuck in our museum. So that's going to be exciting. So Travis asks, what makes HushMat better than the other products that are out there that are similar? And probably meaning the company that just got sold again.
Yeah, again, when you look at aluminum foil, that's the least value contributor to the overall process. So people will look at silver foil and silver foil, or black foil and black foil, and they say, well, they're all the same. What really matters is what's underneath. And the density of the butyl rubber, the adhesion of the butyl rubber, the ability of that butyl rubber to perform in freezing cold temperatures and extreme elevated high humidity temperatures. That is what makes the difference. And many of the brands that are out there have a very low temperature profile or temperature ceiling, and they have very poor adhesion at that elevated level. To John's point earlier, talking about the ability of that product, it flows or it drips or what have you in the July and August months. Well, that same product's got to adhere and perform in the February and in March months too, when it's cold and wet and raining. And that's where our product just blows the competition away. We perform in any climate, anywhere in the world. And the adhesion of our product is not affected by that variation. The flexibility of our product is not affected by that variation. So our product is guaranteed to perform for the life of the vehicle to which it's applied. And that is something that nobody else will be able to live up to. Density, adhesion, temperature are all variables that we just outperform any other competitor in the space. And frankly, those are the three characteristics of the material that are most important.
Yep. And definitely three things you do extremely well, or you wouldn't be where you're at, and we wouldn't be such good friends. What other questions we got there? All right. And E-Luxury Motorsports 2223 says, do you cover the entire panel or just a few places? I'm going to let you answer that, Tim, because I already told you my answer.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it really comes down to, how much energy are you going to put into that vehicle? How much power are you going to put into the system? Or if you're just trying to treat your daily driver for noise, or are you trying to also get the benefit of thermal insulation as well? So if you're wanting just a stock system in your car and you just want it to be quieter, you cover about 40 or 50% of the surface area. If you want a really good sounding system and you want the thermal insulation benefits of the material, you cover 100% of the area. So it really comes down to you designing the stage that you want to perform on, and it's either or.
Yeah, I think, some places in my truck, I've got 4 layers. I just love it.
If you're putting a kicker system in, you are going to want to cover a minimum of 70% of the area, because there's going to be enough output and enough energy that it's going to cause that metal and the plastic to vibrate. And you want to treat that right up front.
Yeah, one of the things that I've also noticed, which is something that people don't always think of, is a vehicle isn't one particular noise. We talked about, going down the road. And I know on my wife's car, you can actually program the radio to get softer as you go slower, because the acoustic dampening of the vehicle is pretty inferior. So they're actually programming in to raise the volume on the radio as you get going faster to compensate for that. And if you eliminate all that noise, that's not going to be an issue at all.
Right.
Right. Every time we come up to a stoplight, the wife's like, turn that down. It's like, but I couldn't even hardly hear it before.
Noise cancellation is a technology you'll hear a lot about, reading the magazines and the trade mags and so forth. That that is really singular. And if you have the aerospace industry, airplanes are really a perfect area for noise cancellation because their frequency band is fairly narrow and fairly consistent. Well, you take an automobile and you take it on an asphalt surface versus a concrete groove surface with either brand new tires or old aged tires, you're going to have a completely different environment, and noise cancellation can't keep up with those variables. That's why our materials are really critical.
You know, and you know, in Oklahoma, we like our big trucks and our big tires too, and that's definitely not going to help the noise at all.
Right on.
You hear these guys like, you know, growling down the road from a mile away. So I think we had there. Scott said that's that Tim guy from Kansas City.
Scott Williams, I know him well.
Yep. Good guy. All
yes,
right.
he is.
The Shup Dog, I like that. E at the Shup Dog says, "Is the stuff easy to cut, and what do you cut it with?" Great question.
Well, very, very great question. Cut it with household scissors. I mean, it is extremely easy to cut. You can use a box knife as well. Our product is high density, which means there's a lot of weight in that thin extrusion. But the benefit of that is you don't have a real thick, rubbery, sticky mass to cut through. You've got about 1.5 millimeters, so a little bit less than a 1/16 of an inch thick. But that 1/16 of an inch weighs the same as the stuff that's 80 mils thick.
Yep, and it's all about mass.
It's all about mass, and that extrusion is really easy to cut with household scissors.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in the past, before we got to be friends, using some of the other stuff, how many times you have to stop and clean the scissors with, you know, alcohol or gas or whatever it happens to be so you can keep cutting. So it makes a huge difference. But you're right, that stuff, it's great. It cuts really easy. I mean, I literally, when I cut it, I usually keep the paper side towards me and I just hold it with my fingers and I can just hold it and just slice all the way down. And
Yep.
with a perfectly straight line, it works really easy. But great question. Most people don't, you know, even think to ask how you cut it or how you trim it. So, and E-Luxury Motorsport 223 again asks, what's the weight difference in comparison like Dynamat?
No
Send
weight
the D
difference.
word.
It's virtually the same. So our thinner extrusion is going to be high density, and you're getting the same mass per square foot that you are with the other brands that are significantly thicker.
It's kind of copper versus aluminum.
Right on.
You know, you guys can feel the weight difference in those two, but you know, it takes a thicker material if it's lighter to, you know, basically give you the same effect. And
We don't use plastic fillers in our formula to replace rubber. So a lot of the other brands have to extrude thicker to get the mass per square foot. Ours is butyl rubber. We don't replace that with cheap fillers and so forth. So you're getting high density rubber out of that 1.5 millimeter extrusion, or less than a 1/16 of an inch.
So, and hey, you know, before, I know we're kind of running close on time here, but I just think it's funny that, you know, talking about looking at the website, you offer household acoustic materials as well. Tell them what else you do, which is actually really cool.
A lot of stuff in the house makes a lot of noise, and try and have a phone conversation next to your dishwasher or next to your washing machine. And many of these laundry rooms are sitting right next to the TV room. Well, you can hear that stuff. You got to crank up the television to hear it. Well, you treat that washing machine or clothes dryer or dishwasher with our material, you're going to lower the sound level by half. And you now have a really quiet environment inside the house. Ductwork, sealing up ductwork, and damping ductwork for your HVAC system, your HVAC unit. It's just, again, you're getting both the thermal insulation and sound deadening benefits from the material. So those are all great applications for the product.
Yep. Anything that makes noise that shouldn't be there, you probably got a product for it. And if you don't, you're coming out with it soon. I mean, that just tells you how busy you are with all these different products and all the, testing and all the different models of trucks. I mean, that's crazy, but absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Gentleman's asking about information, how much it dampens per frequency. We have a spec sheet that lists the frequency range and performance, not only in a single frequency, but across a very broad temperature band. It is really important not to pick a data point, but to show the entire performance of the product over a wide temperature profile, because that is going to simulate day-to-day driving. And our spec sheet has that OBERS testing, which is the ASTM test for damping materials, and that's on our spec sheet on our website.
I think it's funny. That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you right there. So we got some on-the-ball listeners out there.
Right on.
All right. So you've got another product besides dampening material. You want to talk about that real quick because you do so many cool things. And, obviously, congratulations on your role at SEMA. Why don't you tell them what you're doing for SEMA?
Yeah, I was voted to the board of directors of SEMA. And,
which is great.
For the last 2 years, I was treasurer. And this past July, I was elected to a seat on the board. So, I love giving back to the industry. It's been so good to me that I feel it's my duty, frankly, to give back to the future of the industry.
Well, it just proves that, you're a car guy and you're in touch. And, it's like, I'm not going to name any other names, but it's like, audio companies that, aren't, based on musicians. They're just wannabes. There's some people in the boardroom, picking products and colors and specs and throwing a product out there without really having the passion behind it, which is why we've been in business for going on 53 years. And Steve's still in the building every day. And I know you're definitely working every day. When we were sitting here getting ready to start the show, I was watching you work at your desk while we had you. Never stops, does it, Tim?
It never ends, buddy. It never ends. 5:30 in the morning, the eyes are open, and I'm going through my routine. So, and here, what time is it now? 8:30, almost. Yep, it's kind of a normal day.
One more question they're going to throw up here, and eLuxury Motorsports again. How is it applied, roller or heat gun? Another great question.
Yeah, it's awesome. I appreciate the questions. These are all really, really good. Really simple. You can use a roller. We have a roller that's real heavy duty. I will tell you, absolutely no heat gun is required. And I don't care if you're in the dead of winter or the heat of summer, you do not need to heat this material up. It's flexible when frozen. You can put it in your freezer, come in the next day, pull it out and install it. Temperature's not going to affect it.
That's awesome. All right. Well, that was probably the end of the questions, but I want you to mention real quick your wonderful coating product, just for the guys out there that are auto techies like me. Another one of your little products that is kind of unique to the market.
Yeah, we're really excited. Zycoat is the name of the company, Zycoat, and we developed a line of high temperature coatings that are direct applied to turbo housings, headers, downpipes, and we're actually providing heat dissipation of the metal, which is an increase in the performance of the component. And we could have a whole separate show on just that
I know.
point. But we also created a line of clear coat technology that we have 4 formulations today that are high temperature clear coat that you can apply on stainless steel headers, as an example, titanium exhaust, and it changes the thermal conductivity of the metal. And all that means is the metal doesn't oxidize and it doesn't discolor. So it maintains gloss and it maintains its original stainless steel look in service. And really cool technology. And that is a wipe on and air dry material. Nice. So anybody can apply it.
So now you piqued my interest. What about polished aluminum? Would that be something that would work for polished
aluminum, nickel, any metal substrate, any plastic substrate, any coated surface? We have a line that's for wheels specifically. Any wheel substrate, carbon fiber, forged aluminum, polished, anodized. It's a wipe on that brake dust doesn't pit into it. So you never have to polish your wheel again.
I wish I would have known that 40 years ago.
It's a really cool product that is a wipe on and air dry. And then the other that we have two more. We have a paint, metal, and plastic surface protection coating. So you can take a brushed aluminum intake and the aluminum doesn't oxidize with our coating on it. You can put it on, polished valve covers, any components that you have under the hood. You apply this clear coat on it. It air cures in 90 minutes, and it's a phenomenal product. And the last formula we have in the clear coat family is a marine coating for all the stainless steel and copper and metal surfaces that oxidize and corrode. You apply this clear coat, you don't have to repolish that stainless steel. So really cool technology that we'll have it at SEMA.
Cool. I can't wait to see it. And speaking of SEMA, I'm sure I will see you next week. Hopefully we get time for dinner. And if we do, you did say you were buying, right?
Yeah, we're going to see you at probably down the pizza place on Sunday night.
Yep, that'll work. I'll actually be coming from the drag races as well, so we'll definitely meet up there. We'll be in touch this week or this weekend early, and we'll get that all figured out, because it's always good to see you, without all the chaos going on at the show. And we'll see if we can get some of the usual crowd that joins us for that one. And then we got another one Monday night. I know a bunch of us get together at Blaze Pizza down on the Strip.
That's the one, Monday night with Eddie and Mank and the guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Right,
that's Blaze Pizza.
That's where I'll see you there.
Yep, at least there. And like I say, we've occasionally done the Metro Pizza. But enough of that. That's personal business. Guys, I hope you enjoyed our time with Tim. I know I sure have. And that really is just, scratching the tip of the iceberg with, what this guy does and what he's got for products. And as always, Tim, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And as always, it's, absolutely a blessing to call you a friend. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
John, right back at you, my friend, and to Ernie and all the guys at Kicker. I wish you guys the best, and I look forward to rubbing shoulders with you again soon.
Sounds good. Take care and have a good night, and travel safe, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Tim. Alrighty, guys. We're actually not doing too bad on time. We're going to try to get out of here by 8:30, so we're not far from it. But we've got a few things we got to do like we always do. First of all, we want to start off with an event that Jeremy and the guys just got back from in Daytona Beach, and that was the Fall Bike Week, Fall Bagger Fest, I think it was. I can't even remember. I even wrote it down. I still can't remember what it was, but that was done in Daytona last week, and I got some pictures from that of some stuff that I don't know if you guys are following the motorcycle market, especially the extreme sound competitions for motorcycles. This is DB drag at its finest on a motorcycle. You're not going to believe, if you've never seen this, some of the pictures I'm going to show you. So Ernie, why don't you go ahead and pull up my laptop here. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on every one of these bikes, but just to give you kind of an overview of what's going on. I mean, obviously there's some L7Rs in the back of that one, but these guys get crazy with, the fiberglass work and the design. And you talk about a backrest. I mean, when you're leaning up against a couple 12-inch woofers the whole time, just absolutely. If I remember right, I think this green bike's got 8 18s in that enclosure. I mean, we are talking the extreme competition class. I mean, look at the fender. I mean, they want to make sure they hear you coming like they wouldn't anyway. Just really neat designs. And, not practical, but, it's all for fun. Who cares? If you're going to make a scene, be seen. It was right on the beach. We actually didn't have a small presence there. You see the banner in the back, but what a great setting. So if you guys ever get a chance to go to that Daytona Bike Week and you like bike audio, it is something to be seen. I mean, there's so many cool bikes and, different categories, just like with car audio competitions. But now we're going to go to just some good installs that, moving right along. And thanks for Jeremy for sending me those pictures. I absolutely love the Gold Series that we introduced, 2 years ago. And just such a clean look. And, we start talking a lot about enclosures. I just like the unique designs you guys come up with and, just the clever use of materials, without getting gaudy. This one I love because, it's got the stained plywood, but then looks like a piece of lacquered plywood in the background. Just nice contrast, nicely done, nice work. Here again, mirrors on the sides of the enclosure, a couple subs firing forward and then, loaded through the port through the back and a band pass. Just nice looking boxes and creative. And here we got somebody that, probably didn't have a whole lot of money. They had, enough money to buy the Q-Class L7s, but just little things that they've done, just painting little red accents on the speakers and the red K. I mean, just really, makes that truck pop from just, being solid black down a little bit of color and a little bit of pizzazz to it. Come on, laptop, quit arguing. There's another old school versus new school, Q-Class L7, and then the old SX amplifiers. If you guys didn't know, we were doing DSP amplifiers actually back as early as '99, but to the public, if I remember right, when we introduced these, it was about 2003, and they were absolutely cutting-edge technology. In fact, they were so amazing, a lot of people didn't understand them or didn't even understand how to program them, but great amplifiers, the old SX series of amps. Excuse me, starting to lose my voice here. And as I bump my computer again, and we're going to keep bouncing around. Here again, a nice little, comp RT woofer, just LEDs around the perimeter, just good looking little enclosure. And in fact, I love the fact that they, put the sticker on the top and just cool work, guys. So just keep up the creativities. And the colors, you always got to make yourself stand apart, and that is absolutely gorgeous, sky blue on this, and the wiring is done great. So treat everything you do with a little bit of respect. I mean, the wiring's done, very nice and clean. The surfacing of the enclosure, painted nice, and amp racks are all built. Just whatever you do, be proud of it and do what you should do. So that being said, on the installs, we're getting closer here. We got to go to another one of my favorite sections. We're going to go back out of this, and we're going to go to some fail picks. So get my computer to open this up, and some of these, as always, are going to shock you. And if these are any of your pictures, we're not making fun of you, though we're laughing at you, just not making fun of you, because we all had to learn somewhere. I love this picture. Do you think that's going to be any problems? Do you think we're going to have any issues with that? Yes, use the proper gauge wire for the proper connectors, and obviously you got these little strands of wire that are like flipping out everywhere that can short across and cause sparks, which is not good. Now this picture I'm going to have to explain because it was actually a video I tried to freeze. What you're seeing here in the dash, this is a JBL, no offense to the brand, they make great products, but it's a JBL Bluetooth speaker that's been turned into a center channel. And what you think are speaker on the sides here with the speaker grills, and that's funny because they're actually DS speaker grills. I think there's the tweeter mount right next to the steering column with a piece of PVC. But when we go back and look at this, that is not a speaker, going back and talking about what that's for. Is if a lot of these Bluetooth speakers have passive radiators on the end, so this literally is just over the hole in the side of the console to let the passive radiator sound escape. So creativity, yes. Functionality, probably not so much, but kind of a unique idea, but hey, if it works for you, it works for you. Here again, under the carpet, no one's going to see that, but obviously you put your feet on it, you'll feel a big lump there, but this is just amazing that someone would have this much wiring buried under the carpet. Look at all the yellow butt connectors. Yeah, it's a mess. Don't do it. Take pride in it. And if you're gonna solder wires, you have to have a torch or a good soldering iron. It takes a lot of heat in these big wires to get the solder to melt and adhere to the copper. And if it's copper-clad aluminum, you just can't do it. You flat out cannot solder copper-clad aluminum. But this is definitely not the best for connections or stability. Definitely need a soldering iron that was either a lot higher wattage, or if it was a high enough wattage, you didn't leave it on the wire long enough to get it all hot. This is probably not going to stay on. You'd probably be able to just grab those wires and pull them in half. So if you're going to solder, do it right. How about this? Yes, that is a backup camera on the back of a Jeep, and it is screwed to the tire. Some of these things are just fun. I think if you remember last week, I think I showed you a picture of a fuse terminal screwed to the top of a battery. Yeah, that's not going to cause problems, but apparently this guy was not worried about a spare tire, and I think I would have done anything other than screwing it right to the sidewall of that tire. here again, doesn't matter how good a products you have. Audison is an exceptional brand of audio equipment, but when it's not installed correctly, it's not going to perform correctly. And I'm really not sure, I would assume that's supposed to be ground wire screwed to the metal trunk liner, but I mean, not only did they not scratch the paint off, they didn't take the insulation off the wire. Yeah, so you basically have the conductivity of the through screds to a little bit of sheet metal where it goes through. So definitely give this one an F- for functionality and effort on grounding that amplifier. Here again, this was another video. I know I personally have never slipped with the screw gun and threw it through a speaker. Yep, it's happened. But this guy really was not paying attention and completely destroyed that speaker. So always be careful with the screw gun. In fact, most professionals will always tell you never use power tools when installing audio gear. But we do it all the time, and if you're careful, this stuff doesn't happen, but sometimes it can happen anyway. All right, so people are wondering, what is up with this picture? Why are we taking pictures of fuses? Well, the title of this slide was how to get more power from your amplifier, and yes, these are all 25 amp rated slots with 40 amp fuses in them. Not only did you not increase the output of your amplifier, but you have increased the possibility of a flame out. So always fuse your products correctly with the proper fuse level. So that's going to end our picks and fails. We're going to go right to our questions, and hopefully I'm going to be fairly quick with these questions because a couple of these are kind of technical. So first question we got online is, I'm looking at getting some components for my truck. Good job. Do I need an amplifier, and should I run a 4-channel or a 2-channel to the tweeters and 2 to the mids, or is my deck power enough? Well, first part of that is deck power is probably not going to be enough. It would drive them, okay, but I mean, if you're going to spend the money to get components, you probably want some pretty decent sound. So most components are going to require a small amplifier to make them, perform the way they were designed to. So also look at this, a 4-channel or 2-channel. This is a big debate, and it all depends on what you're going to do. And I actually had a coworker that would get really mad when I'd suggest taking a 4-channel amplifier and bridging it into a 2-channel. So give you an example why I would recommend that. If you've got a set of high-end components and the tweeter is close to the mid-range or mounted in the center coaxially, which you can do with a lot of the higher-end components like our KSS series. If you take a 4-channel amplifier like our KX404, it was rated at 50 watts by 4 at 4 ohms. So if you run it in 4-channel mode and take out the passive crossover and bi-amp them, you would get 50 watts to each of the drivers. If you take that same KX404 and bridge it into 2 channels at 4 ohms, it now produced 200 watts to each side. So you're getting 4 times the power with exactly the same number of speakers and the exact same amplifier. Now, the drawback of bridging the 4-channel amplifier versus if you were going to bi-amp them, you have no separate control for the tweeters as far as time alignment. So if your tweeters are on the dash and your mids are down on the door of the kick panel, I would definitely recommend doing them bi-amp, especially if you're going to do time correction, because that's the only way to do it. When you bridge that amplifier, the mid and tweeter, as long as they're close together, it's going to work great. But if you need to adjust the gain level between the tweeter and the mid, you can't do that when you take the amplifier and bridge it. So next question is, could I run the front output of my factory radio to the tweeters and the rear speaker output to the mids? Technically, yes, you can do anything you want, but is that going to work great? Probably not. The problem you're going to find is if you fade to the front or the back, that's going to change the level output between the mids and the tweeters, and it still just is not enough power. So hopefully that answers that question. All right. I want to add better speakers and a subwoofer to my factory radio. It has an amplifier in it now. Do I need to replace the factory amp, or can I use it with a powered subwoofer? And that's an easy question to answer. Anything you have that's got a speaker output with any of our amplifiers, including an amplified subwoofer, you can take that speaker level signal coming out of the amplifier and go right into any of our amplifiers. In fact, the CXA and the key amplifier, the 501, will accept up to 400 watts right into the RCA input. Now, as far as replacing the amplifier, if you're going to replace all the speakers in the vehicle as well, I would suggest, because obviously you're looking for better sound, then you'd probably want to go an interface that would go between the factory radio and the factory amplifier to pull a good, clean, unaltered, unequalized, bass-corrected signal to go right into the amplifier. So if you're going to do a higher-end system that's got a factory amplifier, looking at getting an interface like an Amp Pro or a Nav TV, or there's a lot of them out there that, something you're really going to want to do for a higher-end system. But just adding a subwoofer, even a powered subwoofer or a non-powered with a separate amplifier, you can just grab the speaker wires anywhere and make sure that you grab the wires that have bass. So if it's got a subwoofer, grab that one. If you're grabbing, from anywhere else, usually go for a front door speaker. That's usually where you're going to get something that has the best low frequency response. The last question is where we're going to get a little technical, hopefully not too much. I'll try to explain this quickly. It says, what does differential output mean? Do I need special components that are specifically differential? And do I need special RCA cables? So this is something we put in all of our amplifiers. It's a form of differential input called an instrumentational input. Most amplifiers have something called a single-ended input. All your radios will have a single-ended output. That means there's 4 signals for front and rear and 4 grounds on wires coming through the RCAs, but with a single-ended input or output, you only need 1 ground wire and then 4 signal because they're all tied together, which is generally not the greatest thing to do because you're tying all that signal together and then it's also tied to chassis ground so you get noise. So differential input means that your signal is not tied to chassis ground, so there's less chance of noise, and you get the same resistance on the plus and minus wires. So specific differential RCA cable is going to have a shield and it's going to have a positive connector and a negative connector, where conventional single-ended RCA has a shield and just a positive connector. Then the shield's tied to chassis ground. So differential inputs are the best for noise rejection. You really don't have to have special cables. Back in probably about 92, 93, when I worked for Kenwood, we had the Exelon series, which had differential output head units and differential output amplifiers. They were all RCA cables, which was interesting. To get 2 channels of signal out of one of those head units, you actually had to use the front and the rear output. So you lost your fader, and the amplifier had 2 sets of inputs. You'd have to use both sets of RCA inputs for 1 pair of signals. So it's kind of interesting, but differential input is definitely an advantage for noise rejection and signal quality. You should have proper cables on anything you do to get the best sound. So do it right, follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and I think we've come to about the end of the show, with the exception of we need to give some stuff away. So it's that time when we're going to have 3 lucky people from around the country are going to win. So let's go up here to the board. Colin, who do we have for the 3rd place winner, which is going to win the koozie, the t-shirt, and the TW1s? It's going to be Michael D. from Pennsylvania. Michael D., make sure you watch your email from the Kicker website. You're going to ask for your shirt size, your address, your phone number, and once again, it's got to be an actual address, not a P.O. box, and they're going to send you out your prizes. Congratulations on winning. 2nd place winner tonight is going to be Thomas B. from Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania's cleaning up tonight. What are you doing back there? Is the GPS stuck? It's rigged. There you go. God, I forgot about that. 25 hertz to life. Yep, rigged. Yep, we did it all on purpose against you. No, congratulations, Thomas B. You're going to get the TW2s for the headphones, which are actually a little bit better, true wireless Bluetooth earbuds with noise blocking technology. And then the grand prize winner tonight is going to be Corey S. from Missouri. You're going to get the Bluetooth speaker, the t-shirt, and the koozie. So congratulations to everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks, Tim McCarthy for, setting us straight on sound damping, not dampening. So sound damping material. And just as a quick shameless plug, 2 weeks from tonight, I'll be back on the show again. I'll be coming back from SEMA, and that's where we're going to show you the products we introduce at SEMA, the new products for the year. So you guys are not going to want to miss the show in 2 weeks. We have got some absolutely fantastic, incredible products coming out, and I think the one product line You're probably not going to believe it when you see it. It's going to be crazy. So look forward to seeing you guys again in 2 weeks. We will be at SEMA. I'm actually heading out Saturday, going to go to the drag races Sunday, and then work the show floor, tuning vehicles on Monday. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the show, and then I'll be coming back Saturday, so it'll be a long trip. But I'll be ready to be on here Tuesday night at 7:30 like we usually are and show you guys most of the new products that you're going to see next year. There are a few of them that are going to be late releases, but we're going to have some really cool stuff to show you in 2 weeks. So come back and join us. Thanks to Steven behind the camera, Ernie back there, and Colin, of course, for answering the chats and keeping me straight up here on what I need to talk about. Guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and congratulations to our winners. And don't forget Living Loud with Andy tonight. So he's back on and going to have a great show for you. So Andy, take care. And by the way, Andy, yes, it is Tuesday already. So I saw your comment earlier. So, guys, have a great night. Take care. If you're like Ernie, you got a long drive, drive safe. We'll see you in 2 weeks.